Hi YouTube, Mr. Hayden Bronx here, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD. According to the DSM-4, which is the book that is used to diagnose such disorders under the psychological and mental disorders, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder has to have a few essential things. Number one is it has to have a persistent pattern of inattention or hyperactivity, impulsivity. And the second essential part of it is this all has to be somewhat prevalent before age 7. And the third one is some impairments, that you have to have some impairments in at least 2 settings. That could be school, home, the church, anywhere. And then you have to have clear evidence of interference in these certain things. Now, there's many different types of ADHD, and a lot of them don't get that much attention. The first one, which is ADHD predominantly inattentive type, which if you don't know what that is, I'll explain it. It's the people, like you've all seen it when you were in school, the kids that were just like daydream or stare out the window all day long. They wouldn't really pay attention to the teacher no matter what happened. They were always just sort of disconnected from the situation at hand. And this is part of ADD, but this is a part that doesn't usually get shown. Usually ADD is just normally like, ooh, bouncy, 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 stuff like that. It's just like energy, 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 here, 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 here. It's just completely crazy all over the place. The second type, which is the stuff that gets the most amount of attention, is the predominantly hyperactive impulsive type, which is, as you just seen, like someone running around a room, exploding with energy, bouncing off the walls, etc., etc. Now there is a third type, and this is called the combined type, which is a mixture of both the predominantly inattentive type and the predominantly hyperactive impulsive type, which, honestly, I am the third type. I am a combined type, and what that is some moments you're hyper, all over the place, like everywhere. And the next minutes you're just like, I could honestly care less. What I don't want to know. Just go away. It's something like that. And ADD is something that's been really personal to me for a long time. And there's also something that never ever gets hardly any recognition ever. And this is called hyperfocus and hypofocus. Hyperfocus is what is never talked about. It's like black magic for ADD, and I've only ever stumbled upon it a few times where a scholar is actually willing to talk about it. Hyperfocus is when someone focuses on something so intently that it completely consumes them. Like it's everything that they're doing at this point in time. Some people, it's like, a good analogy is if watching a person play or watch a football game. They're sitting on the couch, they're sitting there, yeah, like that, stuff like that. And then you could like literally put your hand in front of their face and they'd still be completely ignorant to what you were doing. Until like you hit them or something like that, and then they'd be like, hey, what are you doing? But hyperfocus is something that is very prevalent in children, with something that, like if they're playing video games, watching television, or even a school subject that they really like. I know they say most ADD people don't do very well in school because they're the second type, or the hypofocus, which is every little thing gets their attention, like, ooh, squirrel, ooh, shiny, this, everything. It's just completely consuming to the mind of an ADD person. Any little distraction, a pencil dropping, someone fiddling with their pen, the click, 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 just everything will just rip the attention away from this person. And being a combined type, they get everything of this, which is not a fun experience, especially if 1 minute you're absorbed into something, the next minute you're completely not, and then you can't get the attention again to finish what you were doing. And the rates, I'm going to throw up some numbers here, and the rates, this is according to the DSM-4 too, the rates of diagnosing of actual kids that have this disease is 3 to 7% of the population. Now, imagine when you were in school, like, everyone was ADD. That's what doctors said, that's what teachers said if they didn't want to deal with the kids. It seemed like everyone had ADD. And to this day, to me, it still seems like everyone still has ADD or ADHD. Which, the real numbers are only 3 to 7% of all children. And now, here is the biggest myth about ADD and ADHD. ADD does not exist. There's no place in any of the medical books that say that ADD is an actual disorder. The actual disorder is ADHD, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, which is all bunched up into one single disorder. ADD is just an offshoot that people just say because it's easier to say than ADHD, but only by one letter. But then, this disease is very often misdiagnosed, because in order to properly diagnose this disorder, you should have input from at least 3 people. You should have had the parents who see the child at home every day. You need to have the teachers who see the child in school every day and how they act. And then you need to have a psychologist and a doctor. Interchangeable, but preferably have a psychologist in there somewhere. You need to have the psychologist. And then you need to have a conversation between all of these people. And then you need to determine whether this person is ADD, or not ADD, but ADHD, or if they're just being a child, full of energy, or they just had too much sugar, which also is very possible at that age. And their ADD is not a bad thing. Or I keep saying ADD, but it's actually ADHD. It is not a bad thing. I used to think when I was little that it was such a horrible disorder, that it was so bad, and just that it was stigmatizing to label. But as I've gotten older, I've realized something, that it is not a bad thing. A mental disorder is something considered to be an impairment, and if it does something good, it's technically not a disorder. Well, for me, my ADD, or ADHD, sorry, I've been calling it that for years, it's just, I have many positives, and I encourage everyone who is watching this, who might have it, to also figure out what some of these positives are that they have. Create a list. Take an inventory of all of your positive traits, your negative traits, and write them down on a piece of paper. For me, it was, I'm a great test taker. I've never once gone over the amount of time that I needed for a test. But the problem is with this, and the negative side of this, is tests like the ACTs, the SATs. It's when the test is too long, you lose attention. But for tests around 40 to 60 questions, I could fly through it like nothing. And all the questions were choom, 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 choom. Number 2 was studying. For me, I've never actually could sit down and study. But if I sat down and took notes and wrote, and also while listening to the teacher, I would get all the information and I would just bring it up as soon as I would see the question. And this is part of the hyperfocus with the ADD, or ADHD, sorry. So, then make a list. There are a lot of great things that ADD can do. What ADD actually is, it's in the mind. In normal people, there is, imagine this as an inhibitor for your energy capacity in the human body. Alright, for a normal person, this can open and close as needed. But if you're an ADD person, it's always open, because this bridge is non-existent. So, they have the same, ADHD kids have the same amount of energy as any other person. It's just that they don't have an inhibitor that allows them to stop. They can expend all of their energy in one task and do it to the best of their ability, if not better than the normal person. But they will spend a huge amount of energy to do so. Or with the hypofocus, which is the lack of focus, they'll just spend all their energy on everything and not do good on just about anything. And they'll just be like, ooh, this 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there, 7 seconds here, a minute there, 4 minutes there, and so forth. My biggest thing with ADD and ADHD is non-medication for the disorder, which I will agree, in the most extreme cases, attention deficit disorder does warrant some medication, but not the amount of medication that they have been given in the past. For me, I was lucky. My mom was very good and only let me be on a very limited amount of the medicine. And now studies have been coming out with the kids that have been misdiagnosed or have taken the pills without a proper prescription are having very bad heart side effects, very bad, just lots of problems that people don't really understand why are happening. The drugs that they use to monitor the ADD and regulate it is just like methamphetamine. It's pretty much meth. And so I'm going to get some tips and tricks to tell you around ways that you might be able to help get around the ADD and ADHD side effects without taking the medication. First off, stress balls. They're pretty nice. And if you put one in your backpack or something like that, if the teacher's talking and you're trying to focus on the teacher and you need something to do to move around or something like that that's quiet, you get a quiet stress ball and the teacher's talking, you just squeeze or something like that. Also, for what I found works really well for me and a couple other people I know is also like writing, like doodling, writing just in the outskirts of your notes or any of this other stuff, but to the point where you can still understand the teacher, get where you're going at. And it is a little bit of a learned skill, but once you learn it, it is a very valuable skill to have, is being able to do two things at once and still retain all the information. Another thing, caffeine, coffee, Mountain Dew. In people with ADHD, caffeine is a stimulant, and stimulants are what make this pathway sort of be able to close, because it stimulates the pathway, so it's like and then it closes and allows them to focus more. Some people it's 1 cup of coffee, some people it's a full liter of Mountain Dew that'll help calm them enough and focus their mind enough in order to focus for the day. For me, it's 1 cup of coffee. I absolutely despise the flavor, but the caffeine content that it gives is completely and utterly wonderful. It allows me to focus the full day through the college workday. Then also, sometimes this isn't the best alternative, but moving for people with ADD and ADHD. If you have to, just go on a bathroom break, just for a quick minute. Just get up, run to the bathroom, run back. Doesn't even matter if you have to go. You have to move. Or if you're sitting at your desk, just quietly, just tap your hands or bounce your leg or something like that. Anything. Just don't make it very drastic, or else you're going to have people looking over. A couple people can be like, stop it. That's annoying. Stop it. Just keep it to yourself a little bit, but still, you can move just a little bit. The last thing I'd like to talk to about ADD and ADHD is something that also hasn't gotten that much attention, I've noticed over the years. And this is a higher emotional state for children with ADD and ADHD. This means that the children are more receptive and more in tune with their emotions. Like if you've seen a child that has been diagnosed with ADD, they tend to cry more, they tend to yell more, they tend to just all over the place with the emotions. They're more in tune with it. And this carries on all the way into adulthood, which most people end up growing out of. Only a few people, I think it's like 30%, actually keeps ADD into adulthood, or ADHD into adulthood. And fortunately for me, I am one of those people. It's something that normally gets grown out of, but some people it doesn't. Well, thank you everyone for sitting there and watching my video. I will be releasing a video maybe once, maybe every 2 weeks about a different disorder, and then also other topics like covering philosophy, video games, my opinions on video games, different reviews, and so forth. Alright, thanks YouTube. If you like, hit the like button. If you don't, oh well. And if you really liked it, favorite it. I'd really appreciate it. See you later, YouTube.